Hi, I'm Ben Zentera, a home solar expert at SolarReviews.com. I've been working in the solar industry since 2014, so I might be a little biased, but I think getting solar panels for your home is one of the best things that you can do. When you're ready to find a solar installation company, stop by SolarReviews.com to use our solar panel calculator. Find and compare solar companies near you and request quotes. Now, speaking of quotes, that's the subject of this video. It's extremely important to get multiple quotes for solar panels. And what you're looking for is a successful, professional company with a proven track record of happy customers and a salesperson who understands your needs, who is open and informative and can answer all of your questions to your satisfaction. The best way to compare is to get multiple quotes online from companies in your area and then do some research and compare them. The information you'll be looking for in a quote includes system size, system cost, information about incentives you might qualify for, information about expected energy generation or performance, estimated electric bill savings in the first year and over 25 years, a list of the proposed equipment, and finally, information about warranties and protection that covers the system. Let's tackle each of these one by one. First is system size. Now, this should be measured in kilowatts DC, and that refers to the rating of solar panel output under ideal conditions. So for example, a system with 15 400-watt solar panels would be 6 kilowatts in size, because 15 times 400 is 6,000 watts. Now each installer you get quotes from might propose a different system size, and some might give you a quote in AC versus DC system output. You just need to be sure that you're comparing apples to apples, so always look for DC system size. And also make sure you get a satellite image of your roof with the proposed solar panels added to it. Next is system cost. This should be a whole number, and it should be broken down by dollars per watt, but it's okay if it's not because that's a pretty easy calculation. So for example, if the installer proposes a 6 kilowatt system for $18,000, that's $3 per watt. If another installer proposes a 7 kilowatt system for $20,000, that's actually $2.86 per watt, which is a little cheaper per watt than the other offer, all else being equal. Again, make sure the system rating is the same watts DC. And here's a special note on cost. If you're interested in financing, get both a cash and a financed price, because this will tell you valuable information about the finance charge, and you can make a better decision about how to pay. The next thing you should look for in a quote is a full accounting of incentives available to you and how they work. A solar quote must include a breakdown of the federal solar tax credit, and a salesperson should be able to explain to you if you may or may not qualify for this incentive. It's not a given that you can claim this credit. In order to qualify, you must have income and owe taxes on that income. I urge you to talk to a trusted professional like a tax accountant or a financial advisor. The quote should also include any state or utility-specific incentives. Don't just take the installer's word for it. Find the page about the incentive on your state government's website or your utility company's website, and make sure you understand how it works. We also have a lot of information on our website about solar incentive programs. Solar quotes should also include information about expected performance. Now, this is an estimated energy production in the first year, and it's expressed in kilowatt hours. This is calculated based on several factors, including the system size in kilowatts, your latitude and annual weather conditions, the direction your roof faces, which is also called azimuth, the tilt angle of your roof, any shade that falls on your roof from trees, other houses, etc. Now, different installers might use different variables in their calculations. This means that each installer you get quotes from will have their own estimate for the total kilowatt hours their system will produce in a year. These might end up being quite different, but the way to compare them is to divide the estimated kilowatt hours by the system size in kilowatts. Now, we'll look at an example of this in just a bit. First year production estimates should be compared to your current usage, and they're often expressed as a percentage offset. That is, so much of your current annual electricity needs will be offset by the energy generated by the solar panels. Usually, it's best to shoot for 100% offset, or more if you can, to account for growing needs like adding an EV or replacing a current gas appliance with an electric one. But this could be limited by the amount of space you have on your roof, and it could also be limited by your utility company. Sometimes they only allow a system designed to offset the last 12 months of your usage, and they won't go larger. Similar to the expected performance, the installer should also estimate your electric bill savings in the first year and over 25 years. This should also show you an estimate of your average monthly electric bill before and after solar. It should also explain how your specific rate plan works and if there are complications like time of use or non-net metering compensation. And that means you won't necessarily get the full value of any electricity your system exports to the grid. These estimates should also account for the increase in electricity prices over time. Historically, in the United States, electricity prices go up by about 2.3% per year on average. That's what the data for the past 25 years shows. But some places like Oregon and California have seen much higher rates of increase recently, with rate increases of 5 to 15% per year in these places over the past decade or so. Now, this is very important because a huge part of the value of solar panels is the ability to offset future increases in electricity prices. If an installer overestimates future electricity price increases, it might look like you'll be getting more benefits from solar than you will. Make sure you check the number the installer is using, and look up historical electricity price increases in your state on our website. We'll have a link below for that. The next thing a quote should include is information about the proposed equipment. And this means the installer should list the brand name of the solar panels, the inverter or microinverters, and the batteries that they plan to use. Ideally, you should get model numbers for all those things, but at the very least, expect to see the brands they offer. But by the time you're signing a contract, model numbers must be present, because brand and model number of solar equipment can change while you wait for the installation process to begin and after you sign the contract. So having those model numbers in your original contract is valuable protection for you. After the contract is signed, if your installer is offering to change to better equipment, you're good to go. But if it's a change in the other direction, you can ask for money back, extra panels, or other concessions. The final thing you'll be looking for in a quote is information on warranties offered by the manufacturer and/or the installation company. Now, there are materials and workmanship warranties for solar panels, where the industry average is 12 years of coverage, but many top brands are now going to a full 25 years for materials and workmanship. Very few of these warranties cover labor to replace the defective equipment, but Panasonic, REC, and SunPower do. There are also power production warranties for solar panels. Now that covers what's known as panel degradation. Spending every day on the rooftop is hard on anything, and although solar panels should last for decades, they do lose a tiny fraction of their ability to produce electricity over time. Essentially, most solar panels should produce at least 98% of their rated output after a year of being on your roof. After that, it's typical to see around 0.5% of degradation per year, so that at the end of 25 years, panels still produce around 86% of the rated output. And many companies have also extended power production warranty protection to 30 years, like Silfab, which means they're really standing by the longevity of their equipment. There are also warranties for batteries to think about. Most batteries on the market are warranted for 10 years against failures of materials and workmanship, and many of the best brands have switched to 12-year warranties, and Enphase, with its new IQ5P batteries, extends that coverage to 15 years. Similar to solar panel degradation, a battery loses small fractions of its ability to store energy over time. A final type of solar warranty is the installer's labor and workmanship warranties. These aren't offered by every solar company, but most large regional installers do offer them. They cover any necessary labor and repairs needed to fix problems that arise after your system is installed. These may be most appealing from a homeowner's perspective, but they're also the least likely to be honored. If a solar installer goes out of business, the equipment manufacturers still cover the equipment, but the installer won't be coming around to do any repairs. Now, smaller companies often partner with services like Solar Insure to offer long-term coverage, and this is backed by huge insurance companies. Even if you don't get this type of warranty from your installer, the good news is that if there is a problem with your solar installation, it will usually become apparent pretty quickly within the first year or two, and they'll almost always work with you to fix it. That said, it's good to be protected. Now let's actually look at a couple of real quotes and compare them. We have a couple of quotes here from a friend of ours who was recently considering solar for his house in New Jersey. Let's look through each installer's offering and pull out the relevant information that we talked about before. The first step is to set up a spreadsheet table that lays out all of the above information so you can see it side by side. Now let's go through each of these two quotes and pull out that information and put it in this spreadsheet. The first company we're looking at here is called SolarMe. Now if you look up SolarMe on the Solar Review's website, you can see that the company has a 4.77 stars out of 5 stars rating, which is actually quite high. And this quote here is quite complete. On the first page, you can see the solar design. And remember when I mentioned that you want to see the satellite image of the solar panels on the roof, and you can see that here. One thing to notice is that there's a tree in the southeast corner of the lot here, which does cast some shade on some of these panels on the south part of the house. Our friend had to be aware that those panels would be shaded for part of the day, and that means that he might not get full production unless that tree eventually gets cut down. But this page does list out the modules they're using, the Hanwha Q-Peak Duo. Those are 405 watt modules, and there's 24 of them in this setup. It's got Enphase IQ7 Plus inverters and a total system size of 9.72 kilowatts DC. And finally, the estimated yearly production of 8,445 kilowatt hours. The next page shows a little bit of the expected production and energy consumption of our friend's house. This looks fairly normal. You can see in August they must have used a lot of AC, maybe September as well. But the solar panels will generate a little bit less in the winter and a little bit more in the summer. Now this doesn't offset the total electricity usage of this house because the roof isn't quite big enough to get a system that size on there. The next page shows that it's only about a 57% solar offset. The installer shows how the current utility bills are about $236 a month with a cost per watt of 19 cents per kilowatt hour. But after our friend pays for his system in cash, their solar payment is nothing, and they actually earn an extra $63 extra in savings every month from the New Jersey SUSI or SUSI program. Now, this program pays you for the production of your system over 15 years, and it looks like in this case our friend would earn about $11,270 over those 15 years, and that figures out to about $63 a month. And finally on this slide, there's $46,487 in estimated 25-year savings. The next page shows how the installer's total price for the system is $28,188, and then there'll be a federal tax credit of 30% of that system value, which is $8,456.40, plus that New Jersey SUSI program that pays out every year for 15 years. And they estimate that after those two incentives, the net system cost after 15 years will be just $8,461. And now we look at the savings. Our friend has a current average bill of $236, and the installer estimates the average bill will increase up to $495 after 25 years. The current utility bill in annual terms is $2,835, with an annual utility bill in 25 years estimated at $5,937. But with solar, our friend would pay cash and save a bunch of that money as the solar panels make energy and save the money. Unfortunately, this slide doesn't really get into the details of how that works, and actually where it says with solar, flat predictable payments, this actually is showing what we think looks like a loan payment, but in this case, there's no loan because our friend would be paying cash for this system. So that's something that's missing from this installer's estimates. If you look at the next slide, this is a bit more of a salesy slide that says we choose honest over easy, and it gives you a little more information about the company, just kind of reassure you that they're doing the right thing. And then the next one, the facts, and they talk about the environmental benefits of solar, and this is important to a lot of people, so this gets added in to show you, that you'll offset tons of CO2. It will be the equivalent of planting like 140 trees, and that you might have an estimated home value increase of up to $30,000. The second to final page is the proposal details page, and this is where a lot of those numbers that we were looking for actually are. So you can see the average utility bill, the current consumption, the estimated cost that our friend currently pays per kilowatt hour for electricity from the utility, and then the annual utility price escalator of 3%. So the installer estimates that there'll be 3% increases over the next 25 years. But our research indicates that over the past 25 years, New Jersey has only experienced about a 1.3% increase in utility prices. So this installer might be overestimating just a little bit how much electricity prices will increase over the next 25 years. That's something you want to ask them about and see if they can run the numbers using that lower percentage. Finally, they look at the current rate plan our friend is on, which is a regular residential rate plan. There's no time of use periods, and it has net metering, which means they get the full credit for any energy they send to the grid. The system details show again, the system size 9.72 kilowatts, the year one solar production, 8,445 kilowatt hours, an annual degradation of 0.48% for those Q cells panels, and then the 25-year production of 198,957 kilowatt hours. Finally, look at the cost, $28,188. And we'll do the math here now. Looking at that cost at a 9.72 kilowatt system size, that's exactly $2.90 a watt. There's no solar loan payment in our spreadsheet, and there's a federal tax credit of $8,456, which is 30% of that full price. There's also those estimated monthly incentives of $62.61 for the SUSE program, and the average monthly savings are estimated at $193.61 off of that bill. Remember, their estimated monthly bill was $236, so $193 is quite a bit of that. Finally, we go back to the spreadsheet and look 8,445 kilowatt hours in year one. That's a 57% usage offset. And just for our own calculations, that's 868.83 kilowatt hours per kilowatt of solar panels in a year. And again, they estimated a 3% electricity price instead of the 1.33% that we have listed on our website. The installer estimates a 25-year savings of $46,487, which is a substantial savings. And then finally, we've just filled in the brand and model numbers, the wattage and the number of panels, the warranties, just so we can compare it to the other installer. Now let's look at them now. The next company that came to our friend's house is Infinity Energy, and they're another local New Jersey energy company or New York based that had a different proposal. We actually got two proposals from Infinity Energy, one of which was for a cash system and one for a loan. I told our friend to do this to see what the difference was, and I'll show you later. Now, when you look at this quote, it's quite a bit different. As you scroll through the pages, you see the first page is a long table of contents with a beautiful picture of a home with solar panels. The next page is a salesy page that says, we live here, work here, and build here. And then they list all their qualities. The next page, again, is a salesy page that shows you their awards and recognition. They're trying to build their ethos in your mind here, but they're not giving you the hard numbers you need. Again, the next page says the Infinity Energy 25-year warranty, and it details the warranty. And honestly, these details do seem pretty interesting. They have a production guarantee, which means they say whatever energy we tell you your solar panels should generate per year, they will. And if they don't, then we'll reimburse you for the difference. They have a leak-proof penetration guarantee, so they say your roof will be leak-proof for 25 years. And finally, the equipment guarantee. If any equipment needs to be replaced, they say they will replace it at absolutely no cost to you, which goes beyond what the manufacturer warranties say. But they still haven't gotten into any hard numbers yet. And as I mentioned before, these installer warranties are the least likely to be honored if the installer goes out of business. Finally, we get to some numbers. But these numbers are about how much you might pay in utility costs. The next year, you'll pay your utility $2,560 and change. 10 years from now, that will go up, and in another 10 years, it'll keep going up. They're trying to scare you into thinking, holy crap, these electricity prices just keep getting bigger, and I need solar to offset it, but they still haven't told you how much solar is going to cost. The next page again shows you energy costs are going to go up. Do nothing and watch your bill rise. I really don't like this hard sell they're giving our friend here. Finally, this page shows some system size, estimated annual solar production, and utility bill offset, as well as the brand of solar panels and the wattage. And so they say it's a 10.08 kilowatt system that should produce 9,275 kilowatt hours this year, and a 66% total offset of our friend's bill. And these REC 420 watt panels are great. They don't list out the specific model number, but REC only makes one model of 420 watt panels. It's the Alpha Pure R 420 watts. REC is an excellent company that offers great warranties and very low degradation over time. The next slide shows the purchase plan, and now it says this 10.08 kilowatt system will cost $30,240, and it generates a federal tax credit of 30% of that cost, or $9,072. And again, that value of SUSI over time, $11,826 over 15 years. Finally, they show a net cost of just $21,168 after the tax credit, but before the SUSI incentive. And that's actually kind of a nice way to do it, because you don't get that SUSI incentive all at once. It comes over time. The next page shows a pretty interesting graph showing how on the left side, you've just paid about $20,000 for your solar panel system. And over time, as the years progress, that amount gets less and less until it crosses the zero line. That means you've made solar payback. And after 11 years, the solar savings start to accrue. Finally, at the end of the 30-year period they estimate, you see nearly $60,000 in total savings. It's interesting that they're estimating 30 years here because they just said they're promising production for 25, but they're estimating out even further than they're promising. That's a bit of a red flag. Now let's go back to the spreadsheet and look at the final tally here. What we didn't do yet is look at the Solar Reviews rating for Infinity. So let's go there now. It looks like they have a 3.87 star rating. So we'll put that in our spreadsheet. And that's a little bit less than SolarMe. Now their system size was 10.08 kilowatts with a total cost of $30,240, or $3 per watt. As you can see, that's a little bit more expensive than SolarMe's quote of $290 per watt, but the system size is a little bit larger. And that really has to do with how efficient those REC panels are. They can generate more electricity in the same amount of space. There is no solar loan payment in this case, but there is the $9,072 federal tax credit. And again, our friend would have to decide whether he could take that credit based on his income and tax liability. They estimate a monthly incentive payment from the SUSI program of $65.70, which is, again, amortized over 15 years or paid out once a year. But they don't actually show us the average monthly savings anywhere in the quote. So we'll come back to that in a minute. They do say the expected kilowatt hours in year one production from this system is 9,275 kilowatt hours. And that's a 66% usage offset. If you do the math again, that's 920.14 kilowatt hours per kilowatt of panels. And that kind of bears out what we said about the REC panels. They're a little more efficient. They can generate a little more electricity in the same space. Now, Infinity Solar doesn't actually give you anywhere in their presentation their assumed rate of electricity increase over time. So we had to go back and do the math. They do have this slide that shows that if you do nothing, your bill will rise from $213 today to $543 in 25 years. And if you do the calculations, they're estimating a 3.8% increase in electricity prices over the next 25 years annually. Now remember, SolarMe was estimating 3%. We see a 25-year electricity price increase of 1.33% in New Jersey. So Infinity Energy, with its 3.8% increase, is vastly overestimating what you might get. And that means that their estimates of your savings are also going to be overestimated. That's not a good look. They do say that you'll save $79,483 over the next 25 years. We can't necessarily trust that based on their estimate of 3.8%. If we go further down, the brand they're recommending is REC, and we said those are some of the best panels on the market. They definitely generate more electricity than the Q cells, but for the price they're offering and the estimates that they're making, we're not sure that even these better panels make their deal worthwhile. They'll generate 420 watts under full sun, and the number of panels is 24 again. There's a 25-year workmanship and production warranty for those panels, but again, Infinity Solar doesn't include information about which inverters they're recommending, which means we can't figure out how much AC power those solar panels will eventually end up putting out. And Infinity doesn't actually mention the brand of inverter, which again, it's not a good look. They're giving you a very low information presentation, talking up how good they are and how they'll be stand by your side for 25 years, but they can't even give you the numbers up front. They do claim to have a 25-year production, leak-proof, and equipment guarantee, and that's one of their biggest selling points. And again, if they go out of business before the 25 years is up, you might be left without that leak protection, without that equipment guarantee, and just with the manufacturer warranties. And these manufacturer warranties for REC panels are great, but this installer's positioning themselves as offering a premium warranty product, and they're not necessarily backing that up with a claim that you'll definitely get that service even if they have trouble in business later. Now, we actually did get 2 quotes from Infinity Energy. The one we just covered was a cash quote, and the other one was a loan quote. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing because it would be another 15 minutes on this already long video. One thing to notice is that when you look at this quote, you scroll through, it's all the same things until you get to this page, which shows you the proposed financing plan. And notice here the proposed financed amount is $45,818, and the tax credit now is $13,745. If you go back to the spreadsheet, you can see the cash price from Infinity was $30,240. With a $45,000 loan price, that's a 52% increase in the initial cost of the system just to get this loan at 3.99%. And that is what I call highway robbery. Do not pay 50% extra on the principal of a loan because you can't afford to pay cash for the system. If you can't afford it, don't get it. Everything we've seen from Infinity Energy here today shows us that their quote is by far the inferior one. They talk a big game about how good they are and how they'll stand by you for a long time, but they don't give you the numbers up front. Their price increases greatly if you choose one of their low interest loans, and you can't even tell whether they're going to stand behind what they say they will for 25 years. Now, when we talked to our friend, we told him that we much preferred the SolarMe quote. He decided it might not be the right time for his family to go solar just yet. The cash price was still a little bit too much. He wasn't certain he could take that full tax credit, and so he might have to wait until he knows a little bit more about his financial situation. And that's the right decision for him, and I'm proud I helped him make that decision. Now that we've seen 2 different solar quotes, let's talk a little bit more about how to avoid regrets with a solar company. First, consider oversizing your system. Your usage is going to increase over time, and almost nobody we know says, I wish I had fewer solar panels. There are some places, utility companies will only let you install up to the system size that will produce as much energy as you use in the past 12 months. Other places will allow you to oversize up to 120% or 150%, so check with your local utility. Second, use a solar company that you can trust. Now, there are 2 schools of thought on this. You could go with a local installer whose hand you can shake, who will be there if you ever have problems. Or you could go with a large, regional, or huge national company like Tesla, Sunrun, or SunPower. The trade-offs are that some national companies are known for high prices and poor customer service, while small companies are more at risk of going out of business. And one way to hedge against the uncertainty that comes with choosing a small solar company is to go with one that offers solar insure coverage, kind of like SolarMe did in this analysis. It adds a bit to the cost, but for some people, the peace of mind is worth it. Finally, consider your financing options. It's 2024 and interest rates are high. Some solar installers now are now offering these solar-specific loans with things like 3.99 or 4.99% interest and 6 to 12 months no payments. But be sure to read the fine print, because those loans come with these extra fees like 50% and extra responsibilities like having to pay back the cost of the tax credit within 18 months. If you can, find the lowest interest rate that comes with no dealer fees. And that might be a HELOC or a solar-specific loan from a credit union. Okay, that's our video on what to look for in a solar quote and how to compare companies to each other. And I know that was a dense video that's full of information, so if you have to watch it more than once, feel free. If you have any other questions, please put them in the comments below. And please also check out our other videos, especially the one where I talk you through how to determine whether a solar quote is a good deal for you financially speaking. And we'll put a link to that below as well. I hope this was helpful to you as you continue on your solar journey. As a final piece of advice, don't be afraid to get more quotes. Ask as many questions as you need. Consult with trusted friends and expert advisors. And know that if you're feeling unsure at all about solar, you can reach out to us here. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel, and we'll keep making more videos like this. Until next time.